Earth's brutal retaliation stunned the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council had witnessed the extinction of 9 species. They had watched civilizations burn themselves out in nuclear fire, collapse under biological catastrophe, and quietly fade when their sons died. They had heard last transmissions before, the begging, the bargaining, the despair. But they had never heard laughter like that. It came through the speakers at the end of the Hestia outpost feed. Not panicked. Not hysterical. Calm. Cold. Professional. Predatory. Then the screaming began. The council chamber fell silent as the audio played across 1,000 translation matrices. Human voices shouted over weapons fire. Borders and corridor C! Seal the bulkhead! Medic! A wet crunch. A choked gasp. Then Sergeant Daniel Alvarez's voice cut through it all, steady despite the chaos. Tell my wife I was right. Gunfire. Explosions. Something alien shrieking in a pitch that hurt to hear. And then, quiet. The recording ended. For a long moment, no one in the council spoke. Then the Cathare Dominion representative stepped forward. Tall. Skeletal. Forearms folded with casual authority. Its black, lidless eyes reflected the chamber lights like polished stone. Outpost Hestia has been reclaimed, it said. Reclaimed? As if humans had stolen it. The human infestation has been corrected. A ripple of approval spread through several council species. Not relief. Approval. Order had been restored. Predictability maintained. The Cathare inclined its elongated head. Their resistance was statistically above average. Their extinction will proceed accordingly. Extinction. The word hung in the chamber like poison. No one objected. Humans were new. Loud. Aggressive. Unstable. Their wars were messy. Their diplomacy emotional. Their biology fragile. They were not a cornerstone species. They were not essential. They were not worth war with the Dominion. The council adjourned. Humanity was written off. 3 hours later, the message reached Earth. It arrived in a bunker buried beneath granite older than multicellular life. Admiral Thomas Hale watched the recording alone. He did not interrupt it. He did not speak. He watched until the last frame froze on Sergeant Alvarez's blood-covered face, still grinning despite death clawing up his spine. Hale poured himself a cup of coffee from a steel thermos. It had gone cold hours ago. He drank it anyway. The door behind him opened. President Eleanor Ward entered, flanked by civilian advisors and military command. No one spoke. They had all seen it. Ward finally broke the silence. They've declared war. Hale shook his head. No. His voice was calm. Too calm. They declared victory. The room shifted uneasily. They think it's over. Hale continued. They think we'll negotiate terms of surrender. Offer tribute. Accept protectorate status. He let out a quiet breath. They don't know us. Ward crossed her arms. What do you recommend, Admiral? Hale didn't hesitate. Nothing. Confusion spread across the room. Nothing? One advisor repeated. Hale nodded. We don't respond. We don't threaten. We don't posture. He turned to face them fully. We disappear. The Cathare Dominion advanced exactly as predicted. Their fleets moved with clinical precision, seizing human colonies along the Orion frontier. Defense platforms were dismantled. Stations boarded. Infrastructure claimed intact. Human resistance was fierce. And brief. Colony governors surrendered to preserve civilian lives. Military outposts fought until destruction. Refugee ships fled toward Earth and inner systems. It was orderly. Efficient. Predictable. War Executor Threx of the Dominion watched the conquest reports with mild satisfaction. Humans fought harder than most prey species. Their aggression was admirable in a primitive way. But aggression without superiority was just noise. They will break within 2 cycles, Threx said. His tactical officer clicked in agreement. They already are. But something bothered the officer. A pattern. Human forces weren't reinforcing outer colonies. They weren't counterattacking. They were abandoning territory. Entire populations evacuating ahead of Dominion arrival. Fear, Threx concluded. They run. The mining world of Carpathia should have contained 2 million humans. Dominion forces arrived to find empty cities. Lights still on. Machinery still running. Food still warm on tables. But no people. Not one. No bodies. No transports detected leaving orbit. No underground shelters. Nothing. It was as if the humans had evaporated. Threx reviewed the scans personally. Where did they go? No one had an answer. It happened again. Colony Vega Prime. Empty. Then Cygnus Minor. Empty. Then Helios Station. Empty. Humanity was retreating. Vanishing. Council analysts reached the obvious conclusion. Humans lack the psychological resilience for prolonged extinction conflict. One analyst reported. They are entering species-level fight response. The Council accepted this with relief. War was expensive. Dominion expansion would stabilize the frontier. Peace, of a sort, would return. Admiral Hale stood on the observation deck of orbital shipyard Black Site 12. It did not officially exist. Below him floated ships that violated every interstellar treaty humanity had signed. They were not sleek. They were not elegant. They were weapons. Angular hulls layered in experimental composite armor. Heat sinks the size of skyscrapers. Weapon arrays hidden beneath armored plating. And engines unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Commander Elias Vorn stepped beside him. The last civilian transports reached Sol System, Vorn said. Outer colonies fully evacuated. Hale nodded. Casualties? Hi. A long silence followed. Vorn studied the ships below. They really think we ran. Hale allowed himself a thin smile. We did. Vorn frowned. That doesn't sound like victory. Hale's eyes remained fixed on the fleet. Running isn't losing. He took a slow sip of coffee. It's repositioning. War Executor Threx stood aboard his flagship, Ascendancy, gazing at the star map. Human territory shrank by the day. Soon only Earth would remain. He anticipated their surrender. Species always surrendered when extinction became inevitable. Always. A tactical officer approached. Executor. We have received a human transmission. Threx straightened. Display. The image resolved. An elderly human male in dark uniform. Gray hair. Hard eyes. Calm. Admiral Thomas Hale. He looked directly into the camera. Into Threx. You killed my people, Hale said. No anger. Just certainty. Threx waited. Hale continued. You think we're weak. A pause. You think we're afraid. Another pause. Hale leaned slightly closer. You're half right. Threx felt faint amusement. At last. Acceptance. Surrender. But Hale smiled. And there was nothing weak in it. We are afraid. The smile vanished. Afraid of what happens next. The transmission ended. Threx stared at the blank screen. He felt something unfamiliar. Unease. Far beyond Dominion sensor range, something moved in the dark. And for the first time since humanity entered the stars, they were not running anymore. What humans do in the dark. War Executor Threx had spent 211 years conquering species who believed they were dangerous. He had exterminated hive minds that could think across planets. He had burned silicon civilizations that lived inside stars. He had personally overseen the sterilization of a species that weaponized gravity itself. Nothing had ever hidden from him. Nothing had ever vanished. Until now. Explain, Threx said quietly. The tactical chamber aboard the Ascendancy was filled with Dominion officers pretending not to feel fear. A junior sensor analyst stepped forward, her voice trembling despite neural discipline implants. We cannot locate human fleet concentrations. Civilian traffic has ceased. Military signatures minimal. Their core systems show reduced activity. Reduced, Threx repeated. Not eliminated. Reduced. Like an animal lowering its breathing to avoid detection. He did not like that. Where is their fleet? Threx asked. No one answered. Because no one knew. The first Dominion fleet died 12 minutes later. It happened at Carpathia. The Dominion had left a standard occupation group in orbit, 23 warships, thousands of troops, orbital superiority absolute. Routine. Boring. Then their sensors detected a human vessel entering the system. Just one. It didn't arrive through normal space. It appeared. No jump signature. No approach vector. No warning. One moment, empty space. The next moment, something was there. A ship shaped like a blade. Black. Angular. Wrong. Unidentified vessel. The Dominion sensor officer reported. Destroy it, the fleet commander replied casually. 23 Dominion warships opened fire. Energy beams capable of vaporizing continents struck the human ship directly. The beams bent. Not reflected. Bent. Like light trying to pass through something that refused to exist properly. The human ship didn't evade. It didn't maneuver. It simply endured. Then it fired. There was no flash. No visible projectile. Just absence. The Dominion flagship ceased to exist. Not exploded. Not damaged. Gone. Erased from reality, as if it had never been constructed. The remaining 22 ships attempted to retreat. They didn't get far. The human ship moved, not accelerating, not turning, just appearing closer each time, and the Dominion vessels vanished one by one. No survivors. No debris. No wreckage. Only silence. The Council received the Dominion distress report 20 minutes later. It consisted of 4 words. We cannot fight this. Panic rippled through the chamber. The Cathari representative demanded explanation. What weapon is this? No one knew. Human technology was not supposed to do this. Humanity was behind. Primitive. Predictable. They did not erase fleets. They died to them. The Council demanded answers from Earth. Earth did not respond. Admiral Hale watched the combat recording in silence. Commander Vorn stood beside him. That was one ship, Vorn said. Hale nodded. Yes. One. Vorn exhaled slowly. They'll escalate. Yes. They'll send everything. Hale took a sip of coffee. That's the point. 36 hours later, the Dominion sent everything. 300 warships dropped into the Carpathia system. The largest fleet the Dominion had deployed in over a century. Enough firepower to crack planets open. They found the human ship waiting. Just one. Floating silently above the empty colony. The Dominion fleet commander transmitted immediately. Human vessel. You will surrender and submit to termination. No response. Failure to comply will result in immediate destruction. Silence. The commander sneered. Primitive animals. He gave the order. Fire. 300 warships unleashed hell. The human ship vanished. Not destroyed. Gone. The Dominion fleet paused in confusion. Then the first Dominion cruiser disappeared. Then another. And another. Panic spread. Contact lost! Ship gone! Not destroyed, gone! The human ship reappeared inside their formation. Not moving through space. Ignoring it. Reality bent around it like fabric around a blade. It fired again. Dominion ships vanished in clusters. No explosions. No warning. Just removal. The Dominion fleet broke formation. They ran. The human ship followed. Not chasing. Appearing. Each time it appeared, more ships ceased to exist. 300 Dominion warships entered Carpathia. 17 escaped. War Executor Threx watched the survivor transmissions. His species did not feel fear the way prey species did. They experienced it as calculation. Probability of survival. Probability of extinction. For the first time in his life. The numbers were unfavorable. "What is it?" Threx demanded. His science director responded. "We do not know." "Find out." "There is more." The director hesitated. "The human ship transmitted something." Threx turned. "Play it." Admiral Hale appeared again. Calm. Unmoved. "You've noticed," Hale said. His voice carried quiet satisfaction. "You have superior weapons. Superior ships. Superior numbers." He leaned slightly forward. "But we have something you don't." A pause. "We learned how to lose." The screen went dark. Threx did not understand. But he would. Soon. Commander Vorn stared at Hale. "They don't get it." "No," Hale agreed. "They think this is a weapon." Vorn frowned. "It isn't?" Hale smiled faintly. "No." He looked out at the fleet hidden in the dark beyond Pluto. Thousands of ships. Silent. Waiting. "It's a strategy." Vorn crossed his arms. "We spent 40 years building these." "Yes." 40 years running." Hale nodded. "Yes." Vorn looked at him carefully. "And now?" Hale finished his coffee. "Now they learn why." Across Dominion space, human ships began to appear. Not in fleets. Alone. One ship per system. One ship per target. Occupation fleets vanished. Shipyards vanished. Command stations vanished. The Dominion had started the war expecting prey. Instead, they had woken something patient. Something angry. Something human. And the worst part? Humanity wasn't trying to win fast. They were taking their time. Part 3 continues. The things humanity chose not to be. The Dominion had never known uncertainty. For thousands of years, their expansion had followed the same clean equation: detect, dominate, absorb, repeat. Their fleets were the constant. Their enemies were variables. Now the constant was dying. War Executor Threx stood in the strategic chamber of the Ascendancy, watching red icons blink out across Dominion space. Shipyard Kethmora, gone. Fleet Anchor Delos, gone. Fortress Ring Velcor, gone. Not damaged. Not crippled. Gone. It wasn't war. It was subtraction. "How many confirmed losses?" Threx asked. His tactical director answered without emotion. 219 warships. 11 shipyards. 4 command nexuses. A pause. And counting. Threx's claws tightened behind his back. "Locate their fleet concentration." "We cannot." "Predict their next target." "We cannot." The words echoed like an execution sentence. The Dominion had no defense against an enemy that refused to be seen. The council chamber was no longer calm. Species that had once dismissed humanity now argued in overlapping frequencies, pheromones thick with fear. "They are destabilizing the entire quadrant. They must be sanctioned. They must be stopped." The irony was almost funny. The Kethare representative remained silent. Because they finally understood something the others didn't. This was not conquest. This was punishment. On Earth, Admiral Hale sat with President Ward in the same granite bunker where the war had begun. Neither had slept much. Neither complained. "They've requested negotiation," Ward said. Hale said nothing. "They're afraid," she added. He looked at her. "Yes." She studied him carefully. "This is what you wanted." It wasn't a question. Hale considered his answer. "No," he said quietly. "This is what they earned." Ward walked to the observation window overlooking the underground command center. Thousands of personnel moved below, coordinating humanity's first true interstellar offensive. "We crossed every line," she said. Hale nodded. "Yes." 40 years earlier, humanity had learned a lesson no species should ever have to learn. They were not special. They were not chosen. They were not safe. The Council had smiled at them, traded with them, welcomed them, and quietly measured their extinction timeline. Humanity had seen the numbers, the projections, the cold equations that reduced 8 billion souls to a footnote. So humanity had done what it always did when extinction stared it in the face. They cheated. The project had been illegal, immoral, necessary. It was called null. The idea was simple. If the Dominion could destroy ships, humanity would build ships that could not be destroyed. Not stronger. Not faster. Untouchable. They didn't improve armor. They removed the ship from the rules armor obeyed. It took decades. Hundreds of failed prototypes. Entire crews lost to ships that slipped halfway out of reality and never returned. But humans were stubborn. Eventually, they succeeded. The null drives didn't move ships through space. They moved ships adjacent to space. A place where distance didn't exist normally. A place where weapons designed for reality couldn't reach. From there, human ships could reach back in, touch real space, and remove things from it. The cost was enormous. Each ship required exotic matter that could never be replaced quickly. Each activation shaved years off the drive's lifespan. Each shot was permanent. But humanity didn't need many shots. They only needed enough. War Executor Threx received the human transmission alone. Admiral Hale appeared, older now than he had weeks before. War aged humans quickly. "You want to talk?" Hale said. Threx spoke carefully. "Yes." It was the first time in Dominion history a war executor had admitted vulnerability to prey. "What do you want?" Threx asked. Hale's answer came immediately. "Do you remember Outpost Hestia?" Threx did not respond. "You laughed," Hale continued. "Your soldier laughed while my people died." A long pause. "You called them infestation." Silence stretched between predator and prey. Then Threx spoke. "It was accurate." Hale nodded slowly. "Yes." He leaned forward. "So is this." The transmission ended. Moments later, Dominion Core Defense Station Kethval vanished. It had been their most fortified installation. It didn't matter. Dominion citizens began to understand. Their protectors were not protecting them. Their fleets were not invincible. Their enemy was not weak. For the first time in recorded Dominion history, they felt prey fear. Commander Vorn found Hale alone in the observation deck hours later. "You could end it," Vorn said. Hale didn't turn. "Yes." "Their military is collapsing." "Yes." "They're finished." Hale finally looked at him. "No." Vorn frowned. "No?" Hale gestured to the stars. "They're learning." Vorn didn't understand. Hale explained. "They thought killing us would be easy. Acceptable. Logical." He took a slow breath. "They need to learn it wasn't." Vorn studied the old admiral carefully. "This isn't strategy anymore." Hale didn't deny it. "No. It's revenge." Hale met his gaze. "Yes." The next target wasn't military. It was symbolic. Dominion Throne World. The center of their empire. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just visited. A single human ship appeared in orbit. Dominion planetary defenses fired everything they had. Nothing worked. The human ship transmitted one message to every screen on the planet. Admiral Hale's face appeared above their world. "We could erase you," he said. No anger. No pride. Just truth. "But we won't." A pause. "Because now you understand." The human ship vanished. The Dominion throne world survived. And that terrified them more than destruction ever could. Because predators killed prey. But humans were choosing not to. Part 4 continues. Victory isn't mercy, it's a lesson. The Dominion had survived every known predator in the galaxy. They had watched civilizations dissolve under their own hubris. They had imposed order with surgical precision, silencing defiance before it spread. And now they were learning humility the hard way. War Executor Threx had never felt powerless. Until now. The throne world, once a symbol of unassailable dominance, floated silently under human scrutiny. No bombardment. No invasion. Just presence. A shadow in orbit. The humans did not need to fight. The Dominion's own fear did it for them. A tactical officer whispered, almost ashamed of her own voice. They could have destroyed us all. Threx's claws dug into the command console. And yet they didn't. Why? Because humans were always more than brute force. They were cunning, patient, brutal in ways that did not always involve immediate destruction. Hale's strategy was surgical, terrifying, and morally complicated, showed the consequences of underestimating humanity without erasing what could still learn. On Earth, Hale surveyed the command center, where thousands of humans coordinated operations spanning dozens of star systems. Each ship activation, each null jump, was calculated to maximize Dominion casualties while minimizing unnecessary human loss. Commander Vorn approached, quietly awed. They're learning from us. Watching us. Yes, Hale said, voice low. But not what we think. They're learning fear. Respect. That humans are not just another species to calculate and erase. That we adapt. That we survive. That we retaliate, brutally. Vorn frowned. Do you think this will end? Hale smiled faintly, a predator's smile. It already has. For them. The rest of the galaxy just hasn't noticed yet. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions. Panic spread like wildfire. Every ambassador, every envoy, every historian and military advisor tried to parse the human method. Data streams ran through every council computational nexus. Humans should be extinct. Humans should be cornered. Humans should be broken. Instead, humans were everywhere. In impossible places. One ship. Then another. Then dozens. It was chaos. Patternless. Unpredictable. Yet orchestrated with terrifying precision. The Kethari representative could only hiss through clenched mandibles. Their ancient, proud race had fought and killed the galaxy's most dangerous predators. They had never faced a creature that did not obey logic or rules. Now, logic was their weakness. Dominion space burned not from weapons, but from the memory of what had almost been. Entire fleets had vanished, shipyards erased, strongholds nullified. And yet Hale's transmissions had promised restraint. We could have annihilated you, he said in one broadcast. But we chose not to. We wanted you to understand what you did to us. We wanted you to remember. The Dominion learned a new definition of fear: accountability. No species had ever survived being underestimated like humanity had. No empire had ever been reminded that cruelty and calculation are no match for adaptability, audacity, and relentless ingenuity. Hale returned to his cabin aboard the flagship Resolute. He poured a fresh cup of coffee, letting the bitter liquid warm his hands. Outside the viewport, human ships moved silently across systems like hunters in the void. Vorn joined him, voice quiet. Do you think they'll ever forgive us? Hale chuckled, low and humorless. Forgive? No. Respect? Eventually. And that's enough. He gazed at the stars and let the silence stretch. The humans had won, not through destruction alone, but through cunning, patience, and the terrifying lesson that Earth had always been capable of more than anyone dared imagine. The Dominion had learned that humans were not just fighters, they were a force the galaxy could not contain. They were not just survivors, they were teachers of fear. And humanity, finally, was free to define its own rules. Because when humans fight, they don't just retaliate. They rewrite history. And that lesson? That lesson would echo through the cosmos for centuries. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. Because humans had shown them what it meant to be terrifyingly, ruthlessly, human. The silence of space was shattered not by explosions, but by the laughter of the survivors, the same laughter that had haunted the Council, the Dominion, and the stars themselves. It was cold. Calculated. Absolute. Predatory. Unforgettable. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy would never recover from knowing it.